Okay, my voice is not up to reading anything of any length, though my wife Annie has very kindly agreed to read for me. You're going to be hearing the very first sneak peek of a new book I've just delivered. This is the sequel to the now award-winning City of Last Chances. The new book is at least going on the working title of House of Open Wounds, and we're going right in at the beginning, so no further introduction is necessary.
It is a vision of hell. The air is made of screaming, like a picture where the gap between the two objects is revealed after a squint, but to be just more of the same. Here the gap between shrieks is just less insistent sounds of men and women in agony, a hierarchy of audio torment so constant and yet so varied it becomes something close to a choir. Here then is the choir master, a great weight of a man who nonetheless passes through the bloody clutter of the space with an appalling deftness, like the thing in your dream that cannot possibly follow you into the small spaces, and yet does so in defiance of reason. His bulk is gravity, demanding the attention of everything around him. It is a wonder that the rivulets of spilled blood don't orbit him. Beside him, his minions, his attendant devils are hard at work. Time enough for them when you've escaped the pull of this man, this bloody-handed emperor, even now stomping to look over the new arrivals thrown to his mercy. His face is a thing of parts. It can clench like a fist, open like a flower. In other moments, with the rigour of his profession lifted from him, it's a good face, a friendly thing to see, such as might persuade you to open your door to him at night. His moustache, which right now is covered and crusted in red, can make him seem clownish and harmless. The mass of him, which can drive a cleaver through limb or give bite to the teeth of a saw, becomes the ungainly comedy of a dancing bear. When he wants to. Right now, though, he's working. The worst kind of torturer who preys only on those already in agony. No fit or healthy victims come to his dungeon to be broken. He takes the leavings and his people make them squeal. Spilling into his tent now, a flurry of men and women, some in full uniform, others stripped to their shirt sleeves. They are whole as yet. They aren't his. And those that are his, well, their uniforms are ragged, holed, sodden, scorched. The fit set down the stretchers of the infirm and retreat. Nobody wants to spend time with the butcher's company when he's working. One figure remains, uniform jacket open, slovenly, hanging improbably from her shoulders as though it'll slough off at any moment. She's been outside with the bearers, taking details. Taking the wall. Caught a bone cutter, then counterattack. The words almost stripped of their regular meaning. A code between her and the butcher to give him context. He casts a look over the array of the agonized, a clerk, inspecting today's agenda for the meeting. Nearest to him, a man whimpers, his leg laid open. Next, the woman without a hand, screaming at the stump. Then 3 silent ones. He sees where their uniforms are shredded, the ripped edges presented outwards where the shards of shattered bone erupted. The next, and the next, the pucker and scorch of baton shot. The man whose head is laid open so that the jigsaw of his skull is present for any budding puzzlesmith to piece together. The woman, the loudest screamer in the place, whose leg was splintered by some cack-handed amateur who doesn't understand how bones go. The butcher works his first magic. The silent man whose ribs were shattered on one side, he can be saved for future torments. Blunt fingered hands signal, and that stretcher is hauled deeper into hell, where the devils can get to work with saw and tongs. The woman with the shattered arm, she can be saved. She goes to the foreigner with the shimmer skin, staring up at her with eyes pulled so taut, it's a wonder her lids will ever close again. The gut-shot man, he can be saved. He's placed in the far corner for a scouring and a working over, back where a weird old man plays a weird old pipe, skirling and squalling on it as though mocking the screams of the afflicted. It's all part of the service, a necessary component of this precise and exacting hell the butcher has built. Those are the highest priority, where a little delay means the difference between live victim and corpse. Now it's time for the butcher's second magic. His apron is not that of your family-friendly butcher. There are 20 pockets in the leather, each with a flap to keep out the worst of the ambient weather, although most have an inch of red at the bottom of them by now. He goes down the line of the brutalized, his blunt fingers finding phials and bottles by long habit, feeling for the nicks he cuts in the corks to tell him the concentrations and active ingredients, a personal love language of agony and alchemy. The woman without the hand has had the stump cauterized. Not battlefield medicine, but the side effects of a point-blank baton discharge she'll keep. He forces the lip of a glass phial to her lips. She chokes, swallows, her screams fall inwards until their scrabbling fingertips can't reach her lips anymore, and she's silent. He goes down the line, a bespoke service for each. This filter or that based on wound, on whim, on the individual predilections of his busy hands that seem to act of their own recognition. For a couple, the man whose skull is a puzzle with too few pieces, the woman whose innards are no longer in, but entirely absent, he gives a double dose from the black flask. It's not to quiet them. Or it's not only to quiet them, and the noise doesn't get to the butcher anymore. He's been doing this for years. The man whose spine and pelvis have been shrapnelled out through his skin gets a triple dose. He doesn't need quietening. He is wide awake, obviously feeling every shard and chip and razor-edged piece of himself that cuts a little more with each breath. But the screaming has gone out of him. He's already passed into a silence so greedy that not even the gravity of the butcher can pull a whimper from him. At the last he comes to the woman with the badly set leg. It's a mess. Someone thought they were helping, is the butcher's guess. Some infantry regular with pretensions of erudition. It's not just that they clamped the leg straight with the jagged ends side by side like they were trying to use the leg bones to splint each other. It's that backwash of necromancy from the munition that has already fused those broken stumps into needle-spined fist of conjoined bone. Leave it like that. She'll need more than a cane. The butcher looks back along the line. It's under control. Well, at least until the next consignment of stretchers comes in. Behind him, in the bowels of hell, his devils are at work, practicing each their own particular arts, a collection of miscreants and misfits not seen this side of the army paymaster's rolls, and they know what they are doing. He doesn't need to micromanage them, nor would he even know how to in most cases. But this he knows. One heavy hand comes up with a blade. What's a butcher without a knife, after all? He slits away the splint. Beneath it, the breeches are already a sopping ruin. He scowls, the fist of his face tightening further, a jagged gash up the inner thigh that he hadn't even seen because the professional insult of the badly set leg had demanded his attention. She's been bleeding out all this time. He looks around quickly. Somehow, Alv always knows when he's after her. She's just finished up with someone. Her arm is currently a mangled mess. One of her assistants is putting it in a sling and her face goes tight every time he jostles her. No screams from Alv, though. No loss of control. Not now, not ever. Not her. Just that tightness. Like an ambassador who's been served the wrong kind of canapes but won't make a fuss. The ragged ends of her arm grind as the man fumbles the sling. Another tautening of Alv's glitter skin features. The shout of her foreignness here in the room, where most everyone is of one nation. She comes over, trailing attendants. They're all blooded. They've been in the wars, if not first-hand, then vicariously. He shows her the woman's wound. Alv's face tightens a whole extra notch. She's not got much left to give. She nods. Alv is like a goddess, personifying grudging adherence to duty, although perhaps not that much like, given that there are two actual deities currently in the tent assisting with proceedings. Now the butcher, he's a good Palestine soldier. He has no religion, but he'll use it if it works for him, just as he'll use Alv and all her particular brand of magical feckery. He only needs results, not 5 pages of theory with diagrams showing him how it all works. Alv kneels haltingly by the woman, trying not to jolt her own ruined arm. She places her hand almost on the wound. There is barely any blood on Alv. Her pale uniform is almost spotless. And this surely is a miracle, far greater than the act she's about to perform. The butcher actually braces himself, despite the fact of all the actors in this little drama, he's the only one not in appalling physical pain. Alv is doing something to the universe, though. Some singular trick of her people. He feels the tilt point. That's the only way he can think of it. Like a cart he was on once that was going too fast down a mountain track, rocking side to side. The moment when he understood that the whole out-of-control contraption wouldn't be righting itself to swing the other way. Nothing left but the falling. Like that, but with reality. And the wound in the woman's broken leg closes, leaving behind a wealth of wasted blood suddenly robbed of its cause. And Alv's face pulls like a drawstring of a bag as the pain hits her. She goes from kneeling to sitting as her own leg opens beneath the cloth of her breeches. Her attendants are already tying the suddenly sodden cloth off, and Alv's done. She has no more to give. They get her out of the way, off to the side, sitting by those who've already been ministered to by the devils and are waiting to be stretchered right back out of the tent again. And that leaves the broken leg, that clasp of prematurely merged bone. The butcher rolls his shoulders speculatively. He places his hands on the leg, locks eyes with the owner. She's had a nip from the flask by now, and she's still very awake and aware of what's about to happen. There's a lot of begging in that face. And it's something the butcher is very used to. He's very used to not feeling it, not caring, taking joy in it almost. The sign that he's doing his job properly if people are begging him for mercy. You know, 3/10 along, there are torturers. Actual torturers. The scions of the school of correct speech ply their trade on captured spies and enemy soldiers to scour them of useful information. People beg those torturers for mercy too. And here is the chief difference between the inquirers of correct speech and the butcher. Sometimes they are merciful. When they get what they want, they withhold the thumbscrews and the irons. But the butcher knows no mercy. His job is to take the hurt and hurt them worse until they are better.
Thank you. And I think that's a lot. Thank you all for coming.